Hi, this is Robert Kiyosaki, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. This is the most important thing you can listen to today.
He's the one.
I have a dream.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I could do this all day.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
Cinderella's story out of nowhere.
It's in the hole. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Capital Hacking begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to The Big Show. John, it is a pleasure to have you here. My name is Josh McCown. Welcome to The Big Show.
Josh, you are always so darn good on these podcasts, man, with all your questions and your
You
insights.
think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeez.
Today, we interview Nathan Barkocy. Man, he did an amazing job. He has a book, Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth. It is so exciting. It's a parable about three brothers, and I'm not going to tell you anymore because you got to listen to this.
Got to listen into the show. John really loved that this is a guy that actually at one point was an intern with Capital Hacking back when we were early on, and actually says he actually produced a few of the early shows. We'll have to try to figure out which ones. But in the meantime, one of the things I love about this whole idea that Nathan, started some of his journey with us, he was obviously a curious college guy. Not everybody's curious. I know your son and your children are all curious, John. We got to give him credit, right? As a young guy, he was entrepreneurial in nature. And one of the things I guess he took away, we didn't even bring this up, but it's self-evident. He took away all the great relationships you can have and how you can add value to them, and then they'll hopefully endorse your book. So he's done that at a masterful level with Russell Gray, and Ken McElroy, and even the Cardone Ventures. Wow, good for him, huh?
And he co-authored with Sharon Lechter from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, amazing relationships.
Leverage, right? He did a great job with that. Oh, by the way, you and I have talked about this in the past, but if people are listening right now and they're like, man, I want to do an internship, the best internships, the best are what I call wealth internships. And we've had this success over the years. Not people like in the sense of Nathan at the beginning of their career where they actually need practical skills, which is great. But those that are transitioning into the second half of their life and they want to get into the world of whether it be thought leadership or aggregating wealth or capital hacking, those people can reach out to you and I anytime they want on DM or contact us through the website here. We appreciate those guys as well. And this is an ultimate story of a young guy doing a career entrepreneur internship turned great. You're going to love this episode.
Let's go.
So today is the day we have Nathan on here, John. I know you're pumped.
Yeah, Nathan Barkocy just wrote a new book that's out there. It's super exciting. Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth. Nathan, can you give us a little background so our listeners can connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here on the Capital Hacking. I was working with Josh back in my early days when I was a young entrepreneur, to start off Capital Hacking, and I helped him produce some Capital Hacking episodes.
Nice.
So it's so great to be on as a guest now, Josh. I really appreciate being with you. Yeah. So, John, in answer to your question, yes, I did just write this book, Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth. It's co-authored by Sharon Lechter, who's the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki. And we wrote this book. It really all generated, John, by when I was 16 years old. I was a competitive cyclist, nationally ranked, top 10 in the nation. I was going to get offers from semi-professional teams to go race in Europe. And I was going to the Olympics. My eyes were set on the Olympics and the Tour of the Gila. The Tour de France. I was the youngest to ever win the Tour of the Gila in Silver City, New Mexico. I still hold that title, actually. And so I was going places as a competitive cyclist. And then January of 2016, I got hit by a car at 60 miles an hour. So I died on the scene. The officer actually reported it as a fatality. And I was paralyzed on my left side. I was in a coma for 2 weeks. By God's grace alone, I was able to wake up from the coma and recover, figure out how to walk again and talk again, eat again. But when you're laying in bed, just out of a coma and paralyzed on your left side, you really get a mindset shift about what truly holds value, right? So that's where this idea, the concept of true wealth comes from, right? Because tomorrow is never promised, right? So we need to make the most of today. We need to take advantage of our most valuable asset, which is our time, right? So the main purpose behind this true wealth, right, redefining wealth for a new generation, is to really, understand that it does take the monetary wealth, right? We need to build multiple streams of income, utilizing the old wealth and the new wealth to create multiple streams of income, which will provide freedom of time, which is our true wealth, right? Utilizing our time as our most valuable asset. So that's a very high level version of the
Good job.
book for you, right?
Hey everybody, it's Robert Helms, host of the Real Estate Guys radio program. And when you're not listening to our show, make sure you're tuned to Capital Hacking. You're going to dig it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to get into that a little bit, right, John? I mean, I'll let you go, but
I was going to say,
great opening.
so I didn't know, Nathan, you were an OG to Capital Hacking. Did you co-host a couple episodes? A few episodes?
I helped produce them. I didn't co-host necessarily, but I was helping Josh produce all of them and get them off the ground.
Well, it's an honor. And so the true wealth does that equal time? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So true wealth is having ownership of your time and then utilizing that freedom of time, which you gain through multiple streams of income, of course, to leverage yourself to achieve the highest possible good, right? And to elevate your community around you. True wealth is generosity, right? Being able to give your time, your money, your assets, your talents, right? This is what we're called to do, right? Is build up our communities around us so that we can lift ourselves to our highest potential good. And that also is seen through the businesses that we create. And it's very capitalist, right? I'm co-hosting another podcast called Main Street Media Network with Russell Gray. And it's really trying to get people off of the passive dependence on Wall Street and the government and into active ownership of Main Street, right? Of real assets, which you build through real relationships, which is true wealth.
I like it. So, Nathan, day to day though, I believe you've built a portfolio of real estate, correct?
Yes.
So
sir.
what is it that you control today, and how's it going?
Yeah. So I've built up a multifamily townhome portfolio in Fort Worth, and I mean that's been my first. This is funny, Josh, because you when I was working with you, you actually fired me and you told me, Nathan, you need to go start your own business. And that was the biggest CTA, the biggest call to action I've ever had, right? And the scariest at the time, but also the best thing that ever happened to me, because that gave me the push forward to go achieve, pursue my entrepreneurial dreams. And so I was able to invest into this multifamily townhome portfolio out here in Fort Worth. And that's been running itself. From that, I've been able to start a real estate restoration business because my townhomes were improperly developed. So I understand the need for that here in the DFW Metroplex. And that's helped me move forward. I'm also an investor into a large master plan community up in Colorado. And that's a very large project. We're really building a city there. I'm mostly on the capital raising side for that project right now. But there's a large portfolio that I'm invested into, and I can leverage all day long, right, Josh?
That's great. So if we took your book, since this is a book launch podcast, Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth, we've got the new wealth of the true wealth part. What is old wealth? What is new wealth?
Absolutely. So the old wealth is really all of the long-term wealth building tactics, right? So we have very tax advantage plans, very long-term planning. That would fall into real estate. Real estate's a long-term play, right? It's very tax advantaged. It's going to be the same as whole life insurance, right? Very long-term, very tax advantaged. Some of them a little bit more hidden, right? Offshore banking, maybe some dynasty trusts, maybe more of the hidden strategies or the generational wealth that was just passed on generationally. None of that's wrong, right? That's how I myself am building generational wealth for my family. And then the new wealth is more of the modern day wealth, right? The flashier type of wealth. So we have social media influencers that are flexing their Rolex while they're driving their Bentley, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I love owning some luxury watches and cars. That's fun, right? But maybe there's something more than that, right? And that also could be more of a get rich quick scheme almost. So people are just coming into immediate wealth by becoming social media influencers, but then they're not able to invest into the old wealth and build up those multiple streams of income. So there's that old wealth and the new wealth, and we utilize those two, the best of both, to create those multiple streams of income, which creates the freedom of time, which is true wealth.
In your book, do you document how to do a few of those strategies? Is it a how-to book as well?
It is a how-to book. It really also is. It's an incredible book that came together because when I was writing this, I wrote about a 100-page autobiography about my life story, about the accident and then all the businesses that I've started and the failures that I encountered as a first-generation entrepreneur. And I realized my audience needs to be able to relate more. So I worked with my team and we wrote up a whole story. So it's actually a narrative. It's a parable about three brothers. One represents old wealth, one represents new wealth, one represents true wealth. And those three brothers are given a riddle to solve at their father's passing. And that riddle is to solve the definition of true wealth, right? And he gives them a portion of the family inheritance. And he says, carry on your legacy and the family legacy and define, solve this riddle to define true wealth. So through that whole parable and through that whole narrative, there's different steps that are definitely given to the readers so that they understand how they can take advantage and they solve the riddle, right?
So love the parable.
I love that. Go ahead, John.
I love a book with a parable because there's so much meaning. And it's interesting, the greatest teacher of all time, Jesus Christ, he spoke in parables, and it breaks it down to such simple learning and steps on takeaways and how to use it practically in life. Now, what ages would these three brothers be?
Yeah, so they are all, they're around my same age or a little bit older. And so they've all been able to take their family inheritance, take their portion of land, build up their residence, build up their family legacy. And obviously the old wealth is more long-term planning. The new wealth is more the short-term planning. And then the true wealth is the best of both with really a focus on community. And so, yeah, and really that fits to the audience, right? My audience, the ideal reader for this book is not any particular age bracket, right? I'm in my 20s. But I love working with people, all of my network, 60, 70, right? We've got some really, really wise people in my network, and I'm able to leverage their wisdom in order to grow my understanding, which has helped me, create these businesses, write these books, start these brands, and achieve more real estate investment.
Hi, this is Melanie McCallan. Josh and I are just so grateful for the many investors who have already joined us at Accountable Equity. Accountable Equity is so much more than a capital group. It's really a community of accredited investors that want to learn and grow together. I just want to personally invite you, if you want to find out more about this type of investment and see if it's right for you and your family, please visit us at accountableequity.com.
Hey, it's Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning, and you're listening to Capital Hacking. Enjoy.
So tell us a little bit about Main Street Podcast Network, a little bit about that. Where's that from, and what is the role you play in that world?
Yeah, Main Street Media Network. So Russell Gray he had this passion to really bring media off of, especially in alignment with everything that was happening in regard to the media and the silence of the truth and maybe some of the more hidden media, right? Because those voices aren't able to be brought public. He wanted to start a whole media network that is just like this, right? Just real men having real conversations about real relationships, real assets, real wealth. Not of all of this cover-up, right? Not all of the government cover-ups or anything else. And so it's really important what he's building. And it's really funny, Josh, that you asked this, because Russell had this desire to create the Main Street Media Network and really bring the youth into an understanding of real wealth, right? Of Main Street as opposed to Wall Street.
Wall Street, yeah.
And so he was working with his advisors and he said, I want to start this media network and speak to the youth. And they said, Russell, you can't do that. You're too old. And they said, you need to find some younger, accomplished entrepreneurs that are able to speak to the younger generation. And a couple weeks later, I met Russell for the first time and we hit it off. And a couple weeks after that, we recorded a few episodes and now we're live. So the main goal is to be able to help a generation that had been really misled about the true definition of capitalism, right? To be able to understand and redefine the real definition of capitalism and how we can take back the true capitalist mindset and build our small businesses, right?
So Russell Gray, you and I had him on the show, right, John? This is the guy who was on, at one point, he was on Real Estate Guys Radio for 20 years or so. Yeah. And now he's just doing so much. So in the Main Street Media Network, is it a show of shows? Is it a network of podcasts? What is the vision for that group?
Yeah, it is a network of podcasts. So I have my podcast, Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth podcast. And then my friend Michael Rebello, he has his podcast. And we have a multitude of podcasts that are on this radio network that we're all contributing our podcast towards. And we're building up our own media network so that we have the youth that are able to find real media, right? That isn't lying to them or construing them in some certain pattern. to redefine wealth, right, and bring them into a full understanding of it.
I love it. So you're in your podcast, you're primarily targeting Gen Zs. Is that correct?
Well, so the key, right, is to be to be able to redefine wealth for a new generation, right? We would be speaking to that younger generation, but I'm not just targeting them. Just like I said, with this book, it's targeting any aspiring and proactive entrepreneur, right? So whether that be someone who's in college, like I was when I was working with Josh, just having that vision, right? Really wanting to pursue entrepreneurship. I had that drive in college. I wasn't learning it in the classroom, right? I was able to learn all of it through my mentorship with Josh. Yeah. And that opened my eyes, right? And so what I am speaking to that audience, of course, because we need to be able to have this understanding of wealth for the younger generation. But there's so many people, in their 40s that are just looking to get out of their 9-to-5s and achieve true entrepreneurship because they've had that voice in them speaking their whole life, like you can go invest into real estate, you can become an entrepreneur. They've always bowed to the comfort of their 9-to-5 life because everything's promised and safe. And so we're intending to speak to a broad audience of proactive and aspiring entrepreneurs, particularly with my Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth book and my True Wealth brand, as well as the Main Street Media Network.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the topics that kind of came to mind when you were just talking was my wife and I, we had a conversation with our kids last weekend because they were asking how they can purchase their first house. And with inflation and house pricings being so high, my two older ones are in college. My youngest one is 17 still. But it's hard to buy a house right now as a young person. I bought my first property at 22, but it's a bit more unrealistic. So I was telling them that, FHA is one of the best hacks out there, and they can get up to a 4-unit building going FHA, and that would be a great way to start. Or even if they could only get a row or a single, they could, house hack the other bedrooms. I was just curious, what are some of the topics that you cover for younger people to get into entrepreneurship and also to start getting into owning dirt?
Hey guys, it's John Vroman, founder of Front Row Dads, and you're listening to Capital Hacking, the best investment you'll make today.
Yeah, John, this is such a great question because it's so applicable, right? It is outrageous how difficult it is to get into the housing industry right now and to be able to invest as a first-time investor, especially the youth. And this is something that I have been always pursuing myself and I've been able to achieve myself. But also my eyes have been open to it even more with the network that I'm growing. There are these two kids, 15 years old and 18 years old, that have been able to build up a 42-unit portfolio, and they have another one, 82-unit under contract right now. And they've achieved all of this. They started investing when they were 9 years old. They never took any private loans from their parents or anything. It was all through seller financing, through subject to, through creative financing, right? And there's so many different structures that they pursued, and they've been able to build up such a large portfolio at such a young age without going to the bank, right? Because they couldn't go to the bank. You can't get a loan until you're 18 years old, and they haven't made it there yet, And so that's applicable for anyone, right? Not just for someone who's 9 years old and investing. This is applicable for anyone. And this is how I've done it, right? We've been able to pursue seller financing deals, subject to creative financing. There are so many opportunities to pursue that creative financing and pursue your pursuit in the real estate investment portfolio in the real estate investment industry because of these different ways to leverage your capital and use other people's money, right? That's what I do with syndications is I raise a lot of I raise capital from investors, maybe some high net worth physicians who need to place their capital for tax purposes, right? So it's always using other people's money, going to the bank, being creative, and there's financing in it.
Well, nice. It's a nice introduction. So back to, signing off here and making sure people can reach out to you. How can our audience find out more about the work you're doing, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone can go to my website, which is nathanbarkocy.com, and that's Barkocy. And I have all of my different businesses on there, all of my real estate portfolio, and that's where people can join the True Wealth community, which is the community that I'm building for proactive and aspiring entrepreneurs. It's really based upon a lot of accountability, right? Because that's what it takes. You have to be accountable to yourself, and it's hard to do that. So sometimes you need someone to hold you accountable in order to take the right actions and just keep that fire lit under you, right? So
well said.
NathanBarkocy.com is my website. Anyone can go there to join the True Wealth community, to learn more, to download a free blueprint that my team would provide. And there's also an opportunity for everyone to sign up right now. As of December 1st, you can sign up for a pre-sale list. We're intending to bring this book to be a bestseller within the first week, and that does require a certain amount of books sold, right? So we're trying to build up our pre-sale list as large as we can right now. If you're listening to this podcast after January 23rd of 2026, then the book will already be published, and so you'll be able to find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any site online where you can purchase a book worldwide.
Thank you, buddy.
Awesome.
Great job.
Damn straight. We just got
buddy.
We got to the end of another great show. And everyone listening right now, you're the family and friends. Thanks for staying till the end.
That was so fun. And hey, hit the like, hit subscribe. We're here to serve you guys. That's why we're doing this show. Josh is not paying me. I'm doing this off of my quote unquote sweat equity because we want to make a difference in your life. And then that ripple effect will continue to touch the world.
Hey, amen, brother. Please check us out on capitalhacking.com, all the social media threads. And yes, I know you've probably already sent this episode to one of your best friends. Thank you. We love you. Just go right into your iPhone, hit the plus symbol. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Share.